Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Adobo and Avocados. We didn't do an episode last week, but hey, we're back again. As usual, my name is Marie, and today I have.
Nicole van der Hoeven, as always, I'm Marie's sidekick, and down there we have somebody new.
So, hi everyone. My name is Laveena Ramchandani, and I'm really excited to be here today.
So here's a little trivia. Well, not really trivia, but I guess not a lot of people know. But Lavina and I actually went to the same uni here in London. So we both went to Queen Mary. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we sort of did a similar course, like something
Yes.
related to computer science. Yeah.
Yes, it's called, I think it was business computing, but it
Yeah.
related more to computer science.
Yeah.
Yes.
Was it the same year, like 2010 to 2013, or?
I started 2009 September, so literally, I
Okay.
think a year ahead.
Year ahead. Yeah. But yeah, how it's really
Coincidence.
such a small word. Like Lavina is also active in the testing community, and yeah, we went to the same uni. So that's just like a nice little trivia for everyone. So today I think based on like the video thumbnail that people saw, we'll be talking about like Lavina's, I guess, journey to like being a parent. So she's a like a new parent in tech, and we'll talk about, I guess, like how that experience is for you. But before that, like we always like to ask like who is Lavina, like what do you do in tech, so maybe you can give us some quick sort of like overview as to who you are, and yeah, like what exactly do you do.
Sure. So in a nutshell, I've been in the tech industry now for 10 years and I've just taken maternity leave. So it's an excellent break after 10 years. And yeah, it's been an exciting journey throughout. Just to let you know as well, I fell into testing. I had no idea in the course. I don't know, Marie, if you agree with me, we didn't really learn about testing. It
Oh.
was just very minimal, but my first ever job actually taught me about it. And then I thought this is the right kind of mix that I'd like to be in. So then I remained there, and today I'm a test manager. I'm at easyJet. Really exciting to be there because it's a very dynamic industry. I've never worked for an airline before, and yeah, it's quite exciting. It's a different kind of role as well, managing. I've never done that
Mm.
before, but I've got two teams that I look after, specifically the digital side of things and the data science side of things. So it's been really exciting. And the best bit here is that I don't only focus on the tech and the day-to-day tasks. It's about people management as well. So I really enjoy speaking to my colleagues, um, my direct reports, trying to see how can I serve them, how can I support them, and
Mm.
how in doing all of that I make the right decisions for my team and make sure that they're all happy with the way I'm managing everything. So it's been an exciting journey, and of course, I'm not sure how it's going to be like when I go back as a new mom, but I keep hearing all moms say it's like a holiday when you go back to work because you don't have to think about nothing. But I'm not sure what's going to happen with me. But I'm
Yeah.
really excited to see what's there for me next year.
Nice. So let's maybe pick out some of, the few things that you've said. So, first one was around like, yeah, during uni, they never really, taught us testing. I think because I've looked at your LinkedIn profile that you were also a mentor.
Yeah.
So so Queen Mary, they have this program called peer assisted study support, and I also volunteered to be a mentor, and I remember like doing that, and I remember like one of the sessions was around helping like a first year or a second year student to like write some tests using JUnit.
Yeah.
But in terms of like testing principles, methodologies, like all of those stuff, I never really learned about. So when did you first, I guess like from your degree, did you ever, and did you ever like, I guess, learn more about testing? Like did you try and learn something about it during your own time, or was it really when you were looking for a job that you found all about testing?
So, as you mentioned, of course, at university we didn't really learn much about it. Even at the peer-assisted study support, no one really asked testing questions either. So it didn't. I had no idea at that point. But when I landed into my first job, it was a bit of a wishy-washy sort of experience as to what am I really doing? Is this what I want to do? And then slowly, like doing the ISTQB taught me a few things. And obviously, I didn't use everything that I learned at ISTQB. I think what I learned was through experiences
Who
in different
does?
companies and just learning on the job. That was the best experience for me as a tester. But what actually changed my world of testing was the community. Now, I had no idea back in 2013 when I joined this consultancy. Um, that there existed a community. I had no idea. But slowly, when I moved into, I think after 2 or 3 jobs, I saw someone at my company who I worked with, and I wouldn't mind mentioning her name because I've asked her already if I can. It was
Nice.
Parveen Khan. And
Oh,
she actually really made me think about all of this because I would always see about her that she's going to these conferences. There's more about testing. There's a world out there that is supporting you for your questions. There's a world out there who's got appetite to learn from you as well, and not just teach you, but learn as well. So then I thought, like, Parveen's really kind of made me intrigued and curious. So I think 4 to 5 years down my career, that's when I actually learned what really testing is all about. I would do the job on the job, and there wouldn't be a lot of issues or anything, but I didn't really understand the core and things around it, and like the main sort of like the terminologies, how to make sense of them, how to think in different scenarios. Like everyone in the community shares about different companies they work in, and how different sort of industries, and how testing impacts where. So attending these sort of community events, I think, really pushed the best out of me. And that's where I also thought, now that I've digested information, I don't mind taking this back to work, and I don't mind actually sharing my experiences out there with the world too. So that's when in 2020 I started thinking of, right, maybe I can kind of speak as well online and see how that goes. So that's where the journey also started.
it's like I was like nodding because I felt like I was listening to my story because I didn't know that you just recently became active in 2020. That was the year I became active as well. And um prior to that, like I would go to meetups, but then I wouldn't really, maybe interact much, or I wouldn't really, like share my knowledge more publicly. It was only during like late 2019 that I said to myself, okay, I want to be more active in the community. I've got all these stuff in my head that I want to share, and rather than just keeping it, inside me and, not really sharing what I've learned, I might as well, start a blog. And then 2020 was around the time where I started reaching out to like meetup organizers, asking them if, hey, are you accepting like new speakers? Like there's this topic that I want. And yeah, that's really like how it went. So it's great because I didn't know that it was also the same
Yeah,
the same sort of like experience for you.
yeah.
So
So,
I
and
wonder, Lavina, how was it? I guess to switch gears a bit, I wonder what it was like for you to go from, this new career at that time, new career, and then you've built it up, and then obviously it's been going well for you. What was it like to be pregnant and then know you're going to have to step away from this? Was there any angst in that?
Yes, a little bit, but it was like mixed feelings. Like, I think I had a discussion with my husband as well. I was like, "You're continuing your career, but what about mine?"
Yeah.
But I think it's just emotions and hormones everywhere. But I was thinking that what's gonna happen next? Will I become like, will I forget things? Will I slow down
Mhm.
in things? Like when I go to work, how will it be? Um, I think that's why I've remained slightly active in the community side of things. I've got the help of my family, and I really thank them, because even if I can get 1 hour to myself to just sort of
Yeah.
sit on the laptop, just browse a little bit what's happening, who's given a talk where, what talk was it, or just someone's
Yeah.
blog, it just helps me see what's out there right now. And being involved as well, like just wanted to let you know as well, I went to a conference about a month ago with my mother-in-law and baby together.
Oh,
That was an exciting experience, and they did offer a quiet room for baby and mother-in-law, so I think that gave me that confidence as well, that
Yeah.
okay, I can go and do my little thing, and I'll come back and they'll be there waiting for me, and then we can probably have a little bit of food and head back. Like there was this sort of comfort, that people are there to support your situation, and
Yeah.
it's not like, oh, you're not allowed to do that. But obviously, knowledge wise and going back to work is going to be, I think, a bit of a different sort of experience. I think I would like to obviously take it light and slow a bit, just to
Mhm.
understand what's been happening for 1 year, because it's a massive chunk. But
Yeah.
for that as well, the companies, I think every company offers keep in touch days. So I think I'm just going to kind of bullet point things that I learn, what's happening in the teams, how's everyone feeling, see if I can help them in some way, even if I'm going for 2 or 3 days every few months. So I think, yeah, at start I was really worried that my career has now kind of given a break, really, and it might really impact me mentally and whatnot. But I think if I stay in touch with everyone, if I keep
Mhm.
not just community but my team members as well, it just helps to see that I'm still there if you need me, and it doesn't make me feel that I've left a chunk behind, because I've got this beautiful little human with me who makes me happy every day.
Oh.
aw.
I think as well it's correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's much better nowadays as well with the introduction of like remote working. One of my struggles before coming back after my maternity leave was where am I gonna pump? And I actually asked the company that I was with before if they have any private rooms for new mothers, and they didn't had anything. So I had to pump in a restroom, and it's
Oh,
just one of those things where it's not really a nice experience. But I think now, because like remote working is really, I guess, like mostly everywhere, especially in tech, I guess it's much easier.
yes.
I'm curious to know if you're coming back like in terms of like hybrid remote, or is it like how many days in the office do you like intend to come back, or is it gonna be like a full like a remote, yeah, work setup?
So I think it's pretty comfortable. We do have 1 day that we have to attend, but obviously, depending on the requirements at home, and again, I know what you're sharing about pumping. Um, I'm not sure if there's a space for that. And at my workplace, it would be a good kind of question to ask HR about that. But I tend to potentially go every now and then and meet people face to face. With because my mother-in-law is happy to kind of help looking
Yeah.
after the baby. But yeah, I want to take it slow. I think when I was speaking to my manager as well, it was suggested that you will have a lot of holidays accumulated, so have like a phased kind of approach to come back. Don't rush into it, like
Yeah.
just for your well-being.
Yeah, and I think as well, because it's good that you have a very like supportive manager, because I think that is really key, especially
Mhm.
like coming back, and you would feel maybe like overwhelmed with all the
Yeah.
stuff that you have to catch up on. Because I remember when I went back after maternity leave, I was told that I need to learn JavaScript,
Hmm.
and that was the first time I've done JavaScript, and there's just that. like if you for example meet me like in person, like my face would say, yeah, everything's okay. I know how to cope. But deep down I'm like, oh my god, like I need to catch up, on a lot of things. So having this like initial support, like especially like those first few weeks of coming back is really key, because you don't want to get like too stressed.
Overwhelmed. Yeah.
And yeah.
No,
How
totally. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, Nicole.
I was just curious because you two have both had the experience of carrying a child. I have not. I knew very early on that I didn't want kids, and I remember mentioning that to a manager once,
Mm,
and he said like, "Oh, I'm very glad to hear that." And I just thought, "Wow, that's so inappropriate."
yeah.
And he said, "Oh, I mean, I'm glad that that you're not going to be away for a long period of time because we
Yeah.
really need you." And I thought like I felt this weird like dissonance of, on the one hand I don't want kids, but on the
Yeah.
other I also think that that is an extremely unproductive way to and exclusive way of thinking of things.
Yes,
I'm
absolutely.
wondering, from either of you or both of you, did you have any reservations or did you have any bad reactions to you telling people that you were going to be away?
In my case, I was very clear that 1 year is going to be what my body needs and my child would need. So then I was straight up and I said 1 year is what I definitely want. I know that in the company people have taken less, but I was not going to go for that. Actually, a funny thing, I think I interviewed at a very well known place many years ago, and they actually told me that if you were even to fall pregnant and you've got few months to go, for example, we would still hire you. We don't keep that sort of stigma of
Oh, that's
you
good.
know that if you're pregnant we can't hire you. So I think there's a bit of, some companies have this sort of change of mindset
Yeah.
when they're open for options, but some companies I think are still living that sort of at, how should I put it? Living that stigma,
Old
actually.
fashioned, yeah.
Yeah. So I think mine was pretty clear. I did get a few people saying, "Oh, please don't go for that long," in a way that we would really need your support. So I felt that I've made a difference in some people's lives, but you stay in touch with them, and if you
Yeah.
can, just ask them if they need any support. And if, because sometimes certain members become close to you as a colleague, and they would just want to speak to you about certain things and not the person who might be replacing me at work. So it's just kind of that comfort that you have as a manager. Obviously not friends, but that sort of line between friends and a colleague, that this person just feels comfortable speaking to me and I've helped in the past. So it was just that they were feeling upset that, oh God, what are we going to do with the next person? Or we don't know how the next person might be, or these kind of thoughts were flying around. But the person who's looking after my job is amazing. So I'm happy with that. But yeah, Marie, did you have any sort of
Yeah,
idea?
I'm trying to think. I think for my side, like I didn't really had any, extreme negative reaction from everyone. And I do agree that I think like maybe companies here are much more like modern, because I do have a friend, and because her brother he has a startup, and then he like admitted to her that if a woman for example is pregnant, he wouldn't want to hire her because obviously the period of absence. So there are still companies who are maybe like they have that stigma that they can't have, I guess, a lot of women, because yeah, what if this person gets pregnant? But from my personal experience, I didn't really experience that. I think if anything, most of it is internalized, because I was putting a lot of stuff on my head and thinking, oh, like if I go back after, because I think I took about 8 months. And then after that period, I was just putting a lot of stuff in my head, thinking, oh my gosh, they're gonna see that I'm a fraud because I haven't really done a lot of like testing stuff for about 8 months, and then they put me onto this project, and I'm supposed to be a consultant. So those are a lot of things that are going through my head, but at the end, it's just like all internalized stuff because um when you start to just be transparent and then just ask questions, like most of the things that we learn on the job,
Mm-hmm.
then I don't think that really, made any sort of like impact because I was still learning, even though
Yeah.
like I was, pregnant or not, like the learning, still continues.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think most of it is just around like my unrealistic expectations of like how I should be after going back to work. Yeah.
Yeah, I think those things play in your head, isn't it? That first you
Yeah.
were so like quick at doing things, and then
Yeah.
slows down because in one head you're thinking, oh, it's feed time. Oh, how's my baby? If you're in the office, or you keep calling back home, how is he? FaceTime, and things like that. So it can affect you emotionally.
Yeah.
I'm yet to experience that, but I do know that my heart's going to be a bit heavy. But I think another thing as well is if we don't hire women just because they're going to fall pregnant, then we're going to have a majorly male driven team. And then we can't showcase we are diverse teams. So then I think it doesn't look good in those companies. The reputation doesn't look great. Then the ratings don't look great. So I
Yeah.
think we should just be open to all options. It shouldn't matter. We should not regard this as an issue. Um, I'm just thinking emotionally now as well that if a woman's body can do so much, like give birth, their brains can do beautiful things too. So don't just think that, oh, they're going to be away for 1 year, but you don't know what they're going to come back with after 1 year.
Yeah.
So always think the positive, I would say, in that aspect.
Yeah.
I also want to mention different ways of becoming a parent because to some degree I've always kind of been a little not jealous but wistful. I wish that I had had that opportunity because I've never had kids of my own and I've never adopted. Both those are like the standard ways that you become a parent. My husband has children, so I'm a step parent, but I didn't get that build up like for both adoption and for getting pregnant. It takes time, it takes time to get used to the idea, and you get to plan for it and emotionally prepare for it. I didn't get that. So I felt like I was just thrust into this situation. Three of my husband's children lived with us, and I was in the position of having to care for them and, show up to all the parent teacher conferences and whatever. And yet I felt like that is not a type of parenthood that is really recognized. I didn't get
Mhm.
any leave, even though I could have used that time to
Mhm.
bond with my stepchildren. And I felt like, when I would say, "Oh, I need to go because, there's a rehearsal or
Yeah.
there's soccer practice and I need to pick up my stepdaughter." And they're like, "Oh, but so that's your husband's daughter, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, but she's my stepdaughter. Like
Yeah.
it's more than just my husband's daughter, you
Mhm.
know."
Yeah.
And I also felt like that kind of parenthood isn't often represented in the workplace.
Yeah. That's really true. Like, and it's great that you're also talking about that because, like you said, like even I guess like on previous companies, we never really talk about those things. So it's great that we are talking about this now, and I think that should be more of a thing. Like, for example, it's often said that like if you miss like plays or like events like from your kids, then that would really sort of like that's something that they would always think. um
Mhm.
and it's those little moments that really do matter, because if they saw that you're present like during those times or during those activities, then that can really, I guess, shape up their like future as well, because they would always think that, oh yeah, like she was there for me, he was there for me. But yeah, I think that should be really talked about as well, that it doesn't matter if you're a step parent or if you're
Yeah.
an adoptive parent. It should like apply the same sort of rules.
Absolutely. And it shouldn't even matter if you're a grandparent. Like there should be a flexibility at work to for a granny, for example, to take a bit of flexible leave for their grandchild. And it should be open to everyone, really. It shouldn't really be focused on only the person who gave birth, for example. Because nowadays, everyone was saying this to me, take all the help that you can
Yeah.
and be there for your child as well. And now I understand that, of course, I can't do this by myself all the time. I do need a bit of fresh air and stuff. And yeah, you're right that you want to be there for the important things as well for your child or stepchild. It does not matter. And they're children at the end of the day. So there should be this sort of thing that I think companies should keep an equality, that you should be able to have some sort of flexible time off, not just maternity, paternity, for example.
Yeah, I also remember this one time when my stepdaughter, who was 16 at the time, but she always looked older than her age. Um she and I were going to have like a girls' night out after work. So we were gonna go for a movie and then a dinner and then a movie. And then she came a little bit early, or maybe I was finishing a little bit late, and she was waiting for me in kind of like the lobby by the receptionist. And then my manager at the time was like, "Hey, I don't know if it's entirely appropriate to have your friend here, when you're still working." And I'm like, because my husband is significantly older than me, so age wise it doesn't, she doesn't look like me. It looks like we're more peers than that we have a parental child relationship. And I just felt like it's hard not to have that so visible. Like
Yeah.
when you give birth to a child, they usually look somewhat like you, and the age difference is appropriate, and people think, okay, got it, like that relationship is set.
Yeah.
But in these sort of ambiguous relationships, sometimes I felt like I had to explain, and then they'd be like, "Oh, really? So that's your stepchild. So how old is your husband?" And I'm like, "Okay, I didn't really
Mm.
We
want to
don't
get
have.
into that.
Yeah, yeah,
I didn't really feel that close to you yet."
yeah. It just makes people jump into judgments, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, and that should not really be the ethics of a company. I think everyone should just be humble to each other, and regardless, as I said, of stepchild or child, it shouldn't be a thing. You should be welcome to everyone, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
How
I
many
think.
like I'm Oh, sorry, Lavina.
No, I was just gonna say sometimes when these sort of situations happen as well, it makes you think, is it worth staying in this sort of company? Is this the kind of respect as well that they will give and continue to be like that? It questions you, isn't it? That is this the kind of culture for me?
Mm, yeah. I was just gonna comment because I think like that could, like this could be sort of like negative stigma around, if like whether you're pregnant or whether you're, adopting or whether you're a step parent. But maybe we can also focus on like some of the positive like aspects of, being a parent. Because one of the things that so when I was first learning about accessibility, maybe I can share this. um there's this like really well known design created by
Mhm.
Microsoft, and I've always like referenced this as part of like my accessibility testing talks. And Lavina also is an accessibility advocate. And what I love about this image from Microsoft is they've not only categorized accessibility as, something that's permanent, but it could also be temporary, and it could also be a situational thing. So you can see here that, as a new parent, you might experience like certain aspects of things not really being accessible to you. So I remember um because she, like with Gabby, she used to be like on my sling, and like sometimes it's hard to hold a phone with two hands, so it's really accessible if I can just, like, for example, use the device with just my own hand, and doesn't really require me to use both, because then I would have to use my other hand to something else, like to support her.
Mhm.
So from that sort of situations, you can think of like this as a more inclusive way of thinking, because going back to what Lavina said a while ago, if a company is just focused on hiring the same sort of like demographics, then they would miss out on these different situations.
Exactly.
So this is why it's important to have that diverse representative as well. But yeah, I guess, like, if there are people who haven't seen this Microsoft inclusive design, it's really great, because it also focuses on, you know what if, like, you work as a bartender and you
Mhm.
can't really hear, then that's when things like closed captions or subtitles are really useful. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's just a really awesome
Absolutely.
invention. Yeah. Cool.
I also
I want.
think that there are some things that I think as women, we are kind of allowed more leeway on. I mean, there are obviously some things where we the way that we're treated falls short of how we would like to be treated, but sometimes I wonder about our male colleagues, and I sometimes question whether they're getting the support that they need when they
Mm,
have a new child in their lives, because there's this perception that the woman is the one that carried the child, so she deserves all of it, and
Mhm.
the man doesn't really need any time, any parental leave or anything. And I do sometimes feel like the way that male colleagues have announced the
mm.
pregnancy of their partners in the past, I feel like sometimes other people kind of make jokes about it in a way that I feel bad about for them.
Mhm.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think here in the UK, I don't know how it's like there in the Netherlands, but here, for example, in the UK, the statutory paternity leave is just 1 or 2 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. And like,
Mm,
from their perspective, like being a new dad, being a new father, that's not really enough time to
No.
really bond with your child, to really support your partner as well. Because like 2 weeks, it's not enough, and then you're expected to just, okay, I need to go back to work like straight after this, but like they're also missing out. So I know some companies are offering like enhanced paternity leave. I know in my previous workplace, I think like enhanced paternity leave was increased to 3 months. So at least that, has given them more time. But that's like an exception. Like most companies here in the UK, if I'm not mistaken, only offer like 2 weeks paternity leave. I don't know what it's like there in the Netherlands, Nicole, or in Portugal.
I don't really know because sorry, I was pouring coffee. I don't really know actually. The instance I'm thinking of was in Australia, and I think that
Mm,
it's not about the statutory rules. It's about the culture,
Yeah.
because maybe legally you have options, but still, like the way that some of the others were joking, like when my male colleague said, like, oh, I want to take this. I think he wanted 3 months off.
mm,
And the others were like, why are you pushing out the baby, or is your wife doing it?
mm.
And it's like
Yeah.
Mm.
that just cheapens the role of men in their child's upbringing as well, because they need to bond with a new baby as well.
Absolutely. I think I heard a friend's friend get 6 months off as paternity, and I was like, that's amazing because if I'm thinking
Yeah.
10 years of career and then I'm taking this 1 year of full time mom,
Yeah.
I think it's well deserved. Like you need that break mentally as well. And as a
Yeah.
dad as well, if you've been working so hard and you're expecting a baby, they deserve this time too. I remember my husband, it was a shock. I think it was just 2 weeks of full on activities towards the baby, and then all of a sudden, oh, I need to prepare my lunch for tomorrow, I've got work. And I was
Oh,
like, oh God, that came fast. And
yeah.
I guess it's, given any chance, like you call home and stuff, or you try and work from home, but again, I'm not sure if it's seen positively for a new dad if they're not going on their designated office days. I think companies are not thinking like that, that maybe instead of coming 3 days because you're a new dad, maybe just come once a week or see how you feel. I think that could be another change that companies could bring everywhere, because it's not easy when 2 weeks you're just spending at home, and then all of a sudden full detachment from your child, and then you're just far, you're in London. So then
Yeah.
it's just things they miss out, like small things like, oh, baby smiled today, like you have to wait for the next one then. But yeah, I think that there should be some sort of flexibility around this as well. And of course, think from their perspective. I know men are not pushing baby out, but emotionally they're attached. And yeah, they go through everything with you in the hospital. I remember my husband was next to me for every single thing. It was a long 2-day journey, but it's an
Oh,
emotional
wow.
attachment you have with everything. So they should be given the fair chance to have some time off as well.
Yeah. I think maybe like so I'm just thinking back like, pre-pandemic where all of us are expected, to be at the offices. It's probably like much like harder before because like you can't use it as an excuse to work from home, and
Yeah.
then the pandemic happened, and then now obviously we've proven that yeah, working remotely can also work, especially in those industries where it's not really like needed all the time to be in the office. So I'd like to think that maybe now it's, I guess, much more easier, but maybe I'm wrong. But yeah, just and this is just within the tech industry because I know like other industries like they really expected to obviously be in the office,
Yeah.
work like outside their home. So I'm guessing it's still difficult, but like within tech, I'm hoping that it is much easier now compared to how it was before.
Yeah, and I think because I'm heading back home to Spain as well, and I'll be there for a couple of weeks. So obviously, my husband's expected to go to work. It would have been nice if they also said like if your wife's going with your child, maybe you can work from there too. But
Yeah.
it's these kind of things that make a difference and have a higher retainment percentage as well. That, oh, they respected my situation. This company really values my work and who I am and what I'm going through. So I think it impacts everything, isn't it?
Yeah. Cool. I'd like to just focus on a different topic because um like after, I guess, you've started your career, you've been very active in the testing community. You've done a lot of talks. You're like an international speaker as well. I think you're gonna be in agile testing days as well this year. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
um and you've become a host at Ministry of Testing events. So Nicole, if you haven't seen Lavina's quite known for her corny like jokes. I,
Ooh, can we have one
Oh, I can't remember now.
on the spot?
I've got baby brain.
Fair enough.
I I
You
remember
call it
like
dad
there was
jokes, I
yeah,
think.
yeah,
Dad
the
jokes.
dad jokes, yeah. There was like an online virtual one, and then you started with the jokes, and then I met you at Test Bash UK last year, and yeah, you were also doing the jokes. So how did you end up doing all these different activities?
I think I got approached for the hosting side of things. I was surprised. I was like, okay, I've just given a talk once or twice at MOT, and
Yeah.
then I got approached to host an event, and I was like, all right, this is a new experience, but let's give it a shot. You never know. I love talking, so I can keep chatting. So I just thought, let's try this out and see how it feels. And it
Yeah.
felt really comfortable. And all I had to basically do was understand who the speakers are during my session, kind of get to know them better so that I can make them feel comfortable on stage, and not just that, make them laugh a little bit as well before they start their talk. So I thought, what's one thing that I can help the audience and the speaker? I thought maybe make them giggle a little bit will just help with their nerves and everything. So that's how I kind of started.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you gonna be doing jokes in your, because is it, because are you going to do a workshop or a talk in Agile testing days?
Workshop. So
Workshop.
that's a new experience as well. I hope loads of people sign up to it if you're listening to this.
Will you
It's
be
based
doing
on
any more dad
accessibility.
jokes?
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
always good to have this kind of happy sort of atmosphere, isn't it? Like otherwise we are so like stressed, or day in day out we're just so busy that we can't even think of a small joke. But one small dad joke makes someone laugh so much. Sometimes when I was reading the comments after my session, I was like shocked. I was like, it was such a simple joke, but it actually made someone very happy. So that's my job done.
That's so awesome because I think that it's such a lie that you know, just because you're working that you have to be serious, and you know that being professional means always talking about work or projects or
Mhm.
tasks. But the reality is that we're all actually human, and
Yeah.
if we allow ourselves to tap into all the different facets that make us human, that actually makes us better at work, not just because we feel seen or that we can be authentic, but it genuinely lets us consider the world in more diverse perspectives than if we would just had like our work hat or serious hats on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And then you were also a digital star finalist.
Yeah,
Could you talk a bit more about that? And yeah, like what, like is that from easyJet or like somewhere else? Yeah.
yeah. So that was at easyJet. I think I had joined 2 and a bit years ago, and it was something that my head of and the lead architects were talking about, and I was like, all right, this seems interesting. And then we just decided to have certain people for certain titles. So I think I went for the digital star one, and little did I know I got finalized, like nominated for that in with other nominees. And it was really really interesting because for me as a digital star, I represented the blogging side of things that I do to help people learn, the conferences side of things, any training material or podcasts that I had as well, or some interviews I had given on women magazines. So I advertised that as part of what I've done and what I'm continuing to do. And I was really surprised that people are interested in things like that, and not just that I created a system to help things or move things ahead. Or I thought people are, like women might be doing bigger things than just giving talks. But obviously it made me feel happy that something like that is also being appreciated. And obviously I went with my team as part of easyJet, and it was really exciting because I've never been to such events. So my nerves were like way too beyond. I couldn't feel comfortable. And
Mm.
yeah, the food was good, the company was good, and when your name comes on the screen, wow, it's like your heart's just pounding. And then obviously everyone's just looking at you and they're like, it's going to be you, it's going to be you. And then finally when it's not you, it's like, oh god, I was so prepped to get up and everything.
Yeah.
But it's fine because it was a good experience. Of course, there's so many women out there, they're so bright, and the way they're being celebrated through these awards, I'm really really happy. And I think maybe the testing world should do this kind of events, because I'm sure there's loads of people that could do with these awards of helping the community out there. And it just motivates people, it motivated me to keep applying and get
Mhm.
finalists in many awards. So it was exciting, and I would like to apply again with a new title of a manager to see how that gets seen out there. by the committee members. But yeah, it was like a proper award ceremony. You go there, you mingle with everyone, you get pictures taken on the massive poster in the background. It was
Mhm.
really, really good.
I love what you said that yeah, if there's another one, then you'll apply for the manager because at the end, yourself is the biggest supporter. Like,
Yeah.
if you're gonna wait for I guess like someone to nominate you or wait until, be nominated because this is one of the reason why so we have K6 champions, in our work and an upcoming conference that I'll be speaking at, the TESMU conference by Lambda Test. They're doing like an awards for like different categories. So I guess it's quite similar. So there's one about like, like a project or like a team or like the manager, like an individual contributor. And I've just said to the K6 champions, you're if you want your contributions to be more recognized, like vote, try to advocate for yourself as well because like you said there's so many like really bright individuals out there. So I think like advocating for yourself as well is a really good thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Marie, you touched on something so big, something that I'm actually writing on one of the courses that will go live as well soon. Gratitude, right?
Mm,
It's not just about yourself of what you're doing, you're helping your team grow as well. So it's just a simple task of telling them to please showcase yourself
yeah.
because they're going to feel so happy. And it's exactly what I've been doing at easyJet as well is if you feel you're confident or you want some help, I'm more than happy to help you with some abstracts. But go out there, see that world. You'll really feel excited, and that will just keep motivating you to do more towards the community and things like that. And I think few of them were a bit nervous. One of them
Mm,
actually got shortlisted to deliver a training, but unfortunately, it was a new period for the individual because they joined a new team, so it wasn't really sitting well at that time. But it just makes people happy to see different things, and you showing them gratitude towards just mentioning that go advocate yourself. I think that's beautiful, and it's a transferable skill that we learn throughout our careers, isn't it? Like as a test analyst, I wouldn't be thinking that okay, let me speak to another test analyst like that. But when you go to certain levels or certain titles, I think all of your experience just teaches you that you should just show gratitude towards the people you're working with all the time and um, showcase them as well because it's not just you who's doing things, it's your team actually doing with you.
yeah.
I think advocating for yourself is one of the hardest and most important things that a tester can learn, or not just a tester, but any working professional, but particularly women, because I think as women we are socialized and conditioned in many many ways to not seek that praise. I know, like culturally, that could be something that's been ingrained in you. I know for me, I kind of grew up thinking like women, a real lady wouldn't do that, wouldn't put themselves out there. A real lady just is and waits and is passive and doesn't go out and seek what she wants. Or it could be from the perspective of like women are not technical or can't be as technically brilliant as a man or whatever it is in your background that holds you back. I think there are a lot of many ways that that kind of violence and unjustness is done to women. And so
Mm,
it's very difficult because as a tester, it's not just, advocating for yourself as an individual, as a woman, but also advocating for testing, for the
Yeah.
absolutely.
quality of the code and
Yeah.
presenting yourself in a way that's not forceful or insistent, but is assured and secure in the fact that when you find something that's wrong, it is your job to speak up, and that's not blaming anyone else.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. Actually, that reminded me of a question that I'd like to ask you both. When it comes to advocating and maybe representing yourself out there in the community, how do you go on about that with your company? Is this, have you got a limit that you can attend a year, or because you deliver all your work and everything on time, you are allowed to go and do as many conferences as you like? How does it work? And what would you suggest to the people out there? Like, should you just limit to a couple a year, or should you just be open to represent yourself, advocate for yourself and your teams? And as long as obviously you have your deadlines picked up as well, and not just leave them behind.
Yeah. Maybe I can go first. So I think so. Within the K6 and Grafana developer advocacy team. I think I have the least number of experience because even with Lisa now joining, she's still a senior developer advocate. So, like starting as a brand new dev, like I always just have this misconception that it's about the quantity of your contributions rather than the quality, but I've learned that that is not the case. So initially, like I would just say yes to all of like different, I guess, activities, like whether that's a conference or a meetup or like writing a blog post. But now I'm actually starting to be more like selective and focus on what activities I would like to do. And it's related to because I was asking for like book recommendations like last time, and Nicole, one of the book recommendation you suggested was 4,000 Weeks and Essentialism. I just finished 4,000 Weeks, and it's really good. um
Awesome.
because like I know myself, because my personality is a perfectionist, and like I always want to try to do as much as I can because I can, but realizing that I have like finite time, I have finite resources, so I should just only focus on things that I really do want. So a good example was I just received a message, for example, yesterday, if I want to speak at their October meetup. So this gonna be this October, but I already have commitments this coming November because Nicole and I will be doing a talk about intersectionality, which is something brand new. So I want to focus more on that rather than saying yes to that event because maybe I can just recycle one of my old talks. But I want to be able to really put aside a time to really prioritize the
Yeah.
talk that I'm gonna have with Nicole. So I'm more selective now, but before I would just say yes to say yes to everything. Yeah. What
Yeah,
about
I can relate with that as well. But yeah, Nicole, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I think we are in such a privileged position. Marie and I both work for Grafana. I mean, this isn't on the Grafana channel, so we can, say whatever we want. But Grafana is a pretty awesome company to work for. Honestly, it is our job to advocate. So that comes with a lot of freedom. So going and applying to speak at conferences, that's unlimited. We don't have a quota, we don't have a minimum, and we don't have a maximum, so we can decide for ourselves how much of that we want to do. um, I think that I mean, most people are not in that advocate position. Marie and I both came into this doing other things, like we were doing actual hands-on work all the time, and then doing this advocate stuff on the side. If you're in that kind of a position, I think there are things that you can do to be a little bit smarter about it. Every year, for example, I would create one or two different talks, and then how many of those you do, then
Mhm.
it doesn't matter as much because you're just recycling it. Whereas
Yeah,
Marie and I are in a position where, if we do 10 talks, all 10 of them could be different. It would be hard, but we have the time to dedicate to those, to have drastically different ones. But if you don't, then you really need to pick and choose. So maybe do one that's technical and one that's more like about your experience, or about diversity, or something that's just so that there's a little bit of a difference. I think that you can be a lot smarter about how you
yeah,
advocate. So, for example, such a big fan of learning in public, rather than thinking of content as like, I must produce this finished product that is super polished and perfect. Maybe you can lower those standards and say, like, here are my notes they're messy and they might be wrong, but they're online, and anyone who wants to can follow like the thread of my thoughts and understand where I've come from. And this mind shift of documenting rather than creating is really helpful when you don't have much time. And
Abs-
it's also helpful not just from a time management perspective, but also from an imposter syndrome perspective, because it can feel anytime I publish anything, I still have that like, ooh, but who am I to be saying this? Like I'm not. I feel like people will think I think that I'm so great or I'm an expert, but if you approach it with humility and just be like, hey, this is what I learned today, rather
Yeah.
than this is what everyone must do because you should listen to me,
mhm.
then it's a lot more approachable for people. So,
Yeah,
yes, I would say put systems in place to kind of get that going already. And then if you do move into an advocacy role later, then you can just ramp up. It's easy to polish things further, or to do more talks, or to start a YouTube channel, or whatever it is that you want to do, if you already have that foundation of incrementally just sharing what you've learned.
absolutely. Yeah, love it.
Yeah. I think one thing to just also mention is like if you're the kind of person who would say yes to like every opportunity, that means that you're also saying no to like other, I don't know, whether that's personal or work, because
Mhm.
you really can't do everything like all at once. So it's all about like managing like a set like realism as well, like from yourself, that if you have committed to this, then yeah, you're not going to be able to, I guess, spend time like doing other stuff.
Yeah,
So I guess, yeah, being like reasonable and not really setting such an unrealistic like high expectation really helps.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
also, I think this applies to parenting too. I
Mm,
think you need to approach work with your own emotional and mental health in mind,
Yes.
because whether as a parent, or as a tester, or a manager, or an advocate, if you aren't mentally or emotionally in a place where you really enjoy your work, then what are you even doing? None of it is worthwhile.
True.
So I think you need a relentless focus
Yeah,
on figuring out what actually do you want, and what's okay for you and what's not,
absolutely.
because you should never be in a position where you feel like you're sacrificing yourself to some degree just to maintain the appearance of productivity or of expertise or anything like that.
Agreed. Yeah.
yeah. I guess like, so going back to parenthood, because I don't know what it's like with like, for example, in your culture, Lavina, but like in Philippine culture, for example, like our families, they do like to get involved, and more often than not you will hear like, oh, you should be doing this and not that, or you
Yeah.
shouldn't be doing that, oh, that's wrong. So that already puts too much pressure on you as a parent, because being a parent, is hard. Like raising like someone is hard. And so we're always bombarded with like different sort of tips. And you have to, have this sort of like expectation that, okay,
Yeah.
I want to be a career woman, but at the same time, you also need to be like very good in terms of like being a homemaker, or, being a good parent. Like there's just so much unrealistic expectations that the society puts into us.
Yeah.
Because I know, for example, with me, like I know that I am quite career driven. But like, for example, like there are days where, yeah, I'm not gonna be able to cook a nice home meal. Like I'll buy something, and that's fine. But then some people would judge that. There's just so much pressure basically
I know.
from society. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was very different to what I expected. Definitely, I didn't know things are gonna be like that. My mom was very traditional of the thought of, because I went through surgery and everything. She goes like, "You are gonna be bed resting," and I was thinking, right, but I would like to maybe get up every now and then. No, 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 no. Bed rest, bed rest, bed rest.
Yeah.
And now I understand why. because I'm feeling much, much better. I think if I didn't respect her thoughts because she went through it,
Mhm.
I think first I would be hurting her, and also I would be hurting my body.
Yeah.
So I was a bit like with mixed thoughts because obviously my mom went through something different, my mother-in-law went through something different. So they were both kind of sharing their thoughts, and I was like, how do I manage these expectations? It's
Yeah.
just too much. Me going to the office, that's my happy place, and now I've got two more to deal with here. And it was just like, you just have to kind of put earplugs in your ear and be like, right, what I think is comfortable for me, I will do it.
Mhm. Yeah.
What's not comfortable, I will just mention it.
Yeah.
Whether that's the food we eat, because I don't know, in Filipino tradition, do you have like specific foods you should be eating when you give birth, or you just can eat anything?
My mom made sure that it's like soup based all the time
Yes,
because
same,
apparently
same.
that helps with the
Same.
breast milk.
Low
Yeah.
calorie foods, low calorie. Yeah. And yeah, it was just like the first we do it for 40 days. So it was like 40 days. How are we
Oh.
gonna do that? And then 40 days just went past so quick. And then I realize now why she was doing this, because I feel much better within myself, and I feel more confident body wise as well. I know I was worried at one point that how's my body going to behave? Am I going to go back to what I used to look like, or is it going to change? I've got hair fall and everything, so that's also kind of upset me here and there. But it's just that you have to manage what you think sits well with you
Yeah.
and say no to what you think is not right for you. Like, I know putting your foot down has been seen negative for parents and in-laws, but you have to do it. I learned it the
Mhm.
hard way.
Yeah.
Fortunately, my child caught COVID, um, loads of family visits, and I was not
Mm.
happy about it. But I learned the difficult way that I have to put my foot down and just say no. We're not doing no family visits until vaccinations are done. So it's just, it's like at work, managing expectations. Someone wants you to do this, someone wants you to do that, but servanthood and decisiveness as a trait that you have to choose what do you want to do for your team, and what can you push back because your team's already busy. So that was with me. What can I do physically, and what's actually messing up my head? So just stop to that and do what you're happy with.
Yeah.
So,
That's
Lavina, since you mentioned food, the name of the show is Adobo and Avocados because adobo is a Filipino dish. It's like the
Ah,
national dish of the Philippines. It's
okay.
not something that you necessarily eat when you're pregnant, but it is something that's like comfort food,
comfort.
and it
Okay.
always reminds me of home
Yeah.
when I eat it. So
Yeah.
in my mind it's linked to like safety and security and like resetting back to that state.
Yeah.
Do you have anything like that from your culture or from your experience that is the same way? Like it could be food or it could be like a ritual that you do or something that you do for self-care
Yeah.
that you can share with us.
Yeah, I mean, food-wise, I just love everything. So
Same.
naming one thing would be really bad for the other foods.
Yeah.
So then, I think mum's food is comfort food
Yeah.
always, no matter what. And what I really love, what really reminds me of my childhood, my home, is the sound of beach. Just going to the beach,
Mm.
Oh.
Nice.
just going
Yeah.
for a walk, and the sound
Yeah.
of people just having fun. It just brings back so many memories because I've just been brought up in an island, and it's like
Oh.
it itches me that I want to go there. Like, I feel like the waves are calling me, come back.
Yeah.
So then that's something that I really, really feel comfort with. And yeah, I enjoy stuff like that. But food all the time, yes, anything and everything.
Food, yeah, every food. Nice. Well, we're out of time now, but thank you so much, Lavina, for being a guest, sharing your insights, and yeah, being true and transparent to yourself. I don't think we're gonna have an episode next week or the week after because I'll be traveling, but we'll be back maybe the end of August. So we're gonna recharge for a bit. Nicole has some activities as well that she has to do. So yeah, we're gonna have another episode, hopefully with someone really, awesome, and we can also talk about like amazing topic, just like what we had today. But thank you so much, Lavina, for being our guest. Yeah.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Lavina.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Right. Take care. Bye.
Bye.